AJ, I'm wondering if you could kind of go back to the trade deadline when you added these relievers to your bullpen. Like, how much were these games what you had in mind? I know you had 2 months where you had to get there, but was this what you kind of had in mind when you did that?
Yeah, obviously, we talked about it as a group, and I think we knew it was going to be a really competitive pennant race. So we've been basically playing playoff games really since the All-Star break and since the trade deadline. So, again, we knew we were going to be playing some really close games, tight games. We needed to have a deep bullpen. So I think it was, our conversations were really about, playing these playoff games down the stretch, which we've had a lot of practice with, and then obviously getting here to October, which having a deep pen is always a good thing. So I think definitely getting there, and then hopefully having some success there. I think that was the main idea for the pen acquisitions.
Hey, AJ, back again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So basically, you're the one team that you had to cut about $90 million in payroll, give or take, and you were able to go out and make a number of trades to keep the club, sustained. How did all that work? And, it got you back to some place where you weren't last year with a much higher payroll.
Yeah, I mean, obviously each year is a little bit different, and I think we've always looked at it on a 1-year basis, and then also on a 3 to 5 year basis. So I think this past off season, we had the decision to make. Really started with Juan Soto and kind of like how he factored in for us, and obviously his pending free agency and which direction we wanted to take. But we knew if we were going to deal Juan, we were going to need a lot of different ways to replace him. So I think ultimately both, from a roster standpoint, a dollars and cents standpoint, that took us down a different path. Getting pitching depth, obviously finding some offensive production in different ways. With Profar and Merrill and others that really stepped up for us this year, and then just rounding the club out. I mean, I think that was our focus from day one. Was we had last year's roster, which we felt really good about, but obviously some real impactful some top end players. Losing a couple of those guys, Hader, Snell, Soto, Waka, Lugo, some guys that had a lot of success elsewhere this year as well. But we knew we were going to kind of have to take a different approach to a roster build, and obviously we've done it with different teams here in the last few years. At least get to the playoffs and win some series. And this year's team, a little different version, but it really started in the offseason with that Soto decision.
Also, your Rise trade, where basically you got Miami to pick up most of the money. That's worked out fantastic for you.
Yeah, I mean, Luis has been, exactly what we our evaluators thought he was, and our scouting group, in terms of that presence at the top of the lineup. A guy that obviously doesn't strike out, hit collector, just his energy and the way he kind of starts these games for us. Obviously it was right in the car with Tony Gwynn, I think, right before that deal, and just talking about what somebody like that can mean to our team, our club, our lineup. He was a guy we had our eyes on, in spring training, and were able to line up with the Marlins. Obviously, they were going down a different path as a team and organization, and we felt like Luis was the right fit for us. And he's been tremendous. 200 hits, a batting title, and just what he brings to our team and our our lineup. It's worked out the way we were hoping on our end for sure.
Bryce Miller, UT.
AJ, when Joe Musgrove was out for an extended period of time, what was kind of a reasonable expectation of what he would look like when he returned based on what you knew about the injury and everything and the rehab timeline? And how important was it that you guys got the Joe that you got when he did come back?
Yeah, I think from really from day one for myself, I would talk to our staff a lot about, Joe and Darvish. They've thrown a lot of innings. They were very, they come into these seasons like super prepared. But just wanted to make sure, unlike, at least last season, we wanted to make sure we had those guys when it was most, when it was, winning time down the stretch, et cetera. So, we were real cautious, I think, early in the year in both guys' situation. But with Joe, I think probably could have pitched through, I think maybe one of the first episodes that he had from a physical standpoint, and just wanted to be safe because we knew if we get to August, September, and he was in a good place physically, he was going to, the type of pitcher and competitor he is, that's what we're going to need down the stretch. So, again, I think when we the second time we had an issue there with Joe this year, it was like, hey, let's be safe. Let's make sure he has his time. Dealing, I think, more with back of the elbow type situation. I think he made some adjustments. He always works really hard, so he's going to give himself every chance to come back. But I think also part of it was just kind of planning to make sure we had a fresh Joe for down the stretch the last 2 months. And we had some other guys step up for us in that time, the Waldrons and Randy Vasquez and other guys. So, again, I think a little bit of looking forward, a little bit of understanding that, hey, we want Joe for down the stretch. And then, he did what he needed to do, and our medical team did a great job getting him back on the field. He's been outstanding here the last couple of months.
Go to Marty.
You have belief in all of your top prospects. Could you have imagined a season like this, a full season like this in Jackson, Maryland, his rookie season?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, I think I think all of us and definitely our evaluators felt like, and our minor league staff that was around Jackson, they felt like this was the type of player Jackson was going to be in the big leagues. I mean, to expect that day one, minute one, I think we knew he would have, some moments of this kind of impact the way he's had it, but, just the consistency day in, day out, the adjustments he's made, he's gotten better as the season's gone on. Again, I think from all of us, we were excited that Jackson potentially could take a spot in one of those outfield spots when we started spring training. But like anything, the players kind of tell you like when they're ready and how much they're ready for. I think he showed in spring training he was ready for the opportunity. And he's just continued to get better throughout the year. It's I think a great story for, again, like our scouting group, our player development group that, helped prepare him for this moment, and then the big league staff that also worked with him, and just a testament to Jackson, as a first-year player to make the impact he's had. And to me, like, obviously a very, very strong candidate for the Rookie of the Year award, and it's pretty cool to see.
And last year's roster was supremely talented. How much credit does Mike Shildt get for the success of this year's Padres team, and have you guys started talks yet on an extension?
Yeah, Shilt's been incredible. I mean, he's been great. Like, obviously, I think I think when I think the last couple of years just getting to be around him, see him. He's been around the team, so he had a really good feel for our group, our team. Obviously, we made some changes to the roster, but we still have kind of the core group of players that are here. I think the ability, like, just from a fundamental standpoint, he does a great job. Kind of, like, with our players that understand like the impact of some of the little things that lead to winning. But I think it's just a daily reminder that he's able to connect with our players on and make it important to them. In terms of teaching the game, winning baseball, the fundamental standpoint, offensive baseball. And I think we've played together as a group, and that's a big part of what you're hoping for from your coaching staff and your manager, is to get like a talented group and have them play together. And, whether it's the first inning, the seventh inning, the ninth inning, it's a group that has no quit, and I think that's just really in large part to Mike and the staff. And we'll obviously get to like anything when we get to hopefully a long run here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll start looking forward. But he's done a great job.
Hi, AJ. Last month when Hassan came injured, everybody thought he gonna be back in sometime during the season, but now he's done for the season and he'll wait for the surgery. When you look back to his rehab process, what went wrong?
Yeah, I don't think anything really went wrong with Hassan. I mean, I think, to me, just again, like, unfortunate. He's a huge part of our team. He's been here now 4 years. Obviously, what he brings to the table, defense, offense, energy, fan favorite. But he, dove into that base in St. Louis, subluxed the shoulder. Anytime you do that, there's some kind of labral issue, labral tearing. I think it was, he went to see 3 doctors. Everybody kind of gave him the idea that, hopefully this is something that's non-surgical, and, that he'd be able to get through without a surgery. But the surgery was a possibility. And, he did everything he could in his power. Our medical team did a great job trying to get him back on the field. I think last week in Arizona, he got on the field a little bit, still didn't feel right. And, he knows, he knew that at the end of the day, this was something that he's not going to be able to rehab from. So, he's going to go down the surgery path, and, he'll be back. Just be at some point next year, he'll be back ready to go, hopefully with the Padres.
Jeff Sanders.
AJ, how many, you went with 12 pitchers. Can you just walk us through that decision versus 13?
Yeah, I think, again, like 3-game series, short series, like overall we have, our 3 starters that are lined up. We have Darvish as a possibility that Mike can use as well. So I think just, again, like, from a reliever standpoint, we feel like we have length. We feel like we have starters that hopefully go deep in the game. Mike, Ruben, they always have contingency plans and backup plans, but just ultimately felt like we had coverage for, what's going to be more of a shorter series. Obviously, we get to, as you progress through the playoffs and hopefully advance, starts to make some changes. But for us, we just figured the extra position player in this situation with, our starters that are rested, hopefully take us deep in the games, and, a bullpen that's rested, we felt like maybe the position player was a little more important for us if we got into a scramble type situation.
Yuki was not used much the last month of the season. How did he kind of make it on the staff?
Yeah, Yuki's been, again, like, the last few weeks, obviously, we've played, some super tight games, but we're going to need everybody on our staff. Yuki's been a big part of it all year. You look at the second half, you look at his walk to strikeout, he's cut the walks down, he punches guys out. He's been a big part of our team, and we've let him know that. And I think from Yuki's standpoint, there's going to be situations here in the next few weeks. We're going to need everybody on the staff, and Yuki's been a real part of it. And again, that wasn't really much of a decision for us. I think he was one of our guys, and I think it was, again, the roster was a pretty easy conversation overall. With Mike and the group. I think we were pretty much in agreement. This is the group we wanted for this round, and we'll go from there.
Last one, Sean Reynolds. What kind of consideration did he get, and how is his left knee, and is he an option moving forward? Yeah,
no, Sean's definitely he's put himself in that conversation. He was he opened a lot of eyes when he was here over the last couple of weeks. He tweaked the knee there in AAA, like you mentioned. So we just saw him, Mike Shildt, and a bunch of the coaches, myself, we got to see him the other day in Arizona. They're playing like simulated games, and he pitched there. But he was a consideration for us in this round. He'll continue to be a consideration if we're able to advance.
AJ, understanding it's the playoffs and ball bounces crazy ways, and who knows what happens. I'm just wondering from a team building perspective. You guys have cut down on you have so few strikeouts in your lineup. Other teams, a lot of home runs, a lot of strikeouts. From what your observation, is there a better way to go in October? And it seems like your club is built pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, I think obviously, like, tough at bats, the pitching gets better. Like the guy's ability to command the ball and the stuff gets better. So being able to command the strike zone, that's always a big thing. But there's definitely different ways to do it. You've seen, like, I think one team, you think about that 0-2 Angel team where you just couldn't punch those guys out, and they were, first to third all the time. And, that's one way to do it. And then you look at other teams, and it's, they're able to take a walk and then, hit a 3-run homer. But I think the bottom line is some version of controlling the strike zone is a huge thing. With our group, it's, been putting the ball in play, and we're able to get a lot of hits and string a lot of hits together. I think when you look at all the teams that win, they usually have kind of one of those two themes where they're able to take walks and hit bombs and control the zone that way, or they're able to do it by not punching. And this year's version of our team is more the latter. Hopefully it plays for us here in the next couple of weeks.
Kevin Acey.
AJ, what's your take on what the Braves have had to do here in the last few days? Would seem unfortunate for them, perhaps fortunate for you. And when did you find out who their starter would be today?
I think obviously, we knew, honestly, for myself, I was probably started the score we're watching like first day of the second half of the season. I thought it was going to be a heck of a pennant race. So I think everybody knew it was just going to come down to the wire, and in this case, probably went past the wire. Obviously, circumstances with the hurricane kind of out of their control. But yeah, I think they're obviously. It's a tremendous organization. They're one of the top organizations in the game. Here over the last 7 or 8 years, a world championship, playoff tested players, and they've had some injuries this year. And just talks about the strength of their roster, that they're here and able to go through those 2 games yesterday. I'm just watching as a fan. It was a huge roller coaster, And in terms of the starter, I think we were watching like everybody else, just trying to see who would start game 2 and. Kind of last night as a scouting group and the staff just kind of throwing out possibilities, and this morning hearing that it was that they were going to go with Smith Shawver and go from there.